Okay.
I do think it would be wise, Chris, if you could
Yeah.
just quickly.
Yeah. Sorry, all. So, Steve, do you need to read that motion again?
Yeah, I'll read it again.
Yeah, thank you.
I move to certify the nature of the declared COVID-19 emergency makes it impractical and unsafe for the Water Resources Committee to assemble in a single location, and further that the agenda items to be taken up at this meeting are necessary to continue the operation and discharge of lawful purposes, duties, and responsibilities of the committee. I made that motion.
Second.
Okay, I'll now call the roll. David Collins,
Aye.
Steve Lucas,
Aye.
Lonnie Murray.
Aye.
All right, motion approved. All right, now we're ready to get into updates and discussion here. Get into it. All right, Lisa.
Thanks, Chris. Would you mind sharing the septic update Word doc that I sent you?
Sure.
Just so everybody can read along as I'm talking.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I have.
Or Marie, if Marie has it.
Yeah.
I've got it up. I will share.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Some quick updates on the septic program. Actually, can you scroll down a little bit so we can see the whole, just the tie section, please? Thank you. So update for the tie septic program. All of our, what I'll call regular grant funding has been obligated. So the money we originally received for this second tie grant that we're currently in has been obligated to contracts, but we did recently receive $78,550 in funding, which is reprogrammed funding from DEQ. So this was funding that another district could not use, and we told DEQ that we could definitely allocate it. So this is not, in addition, this is not new funding, so to speak. It's not a new grant, it's reprogrammed funding. Of that 78,000, the septic program will be receiving a little over 15,000. The remainder will go to the ag program as of right now. Luke and I are in discussions about shifting some of that additional ag program reprogram funds to the septic program. As you guys are aware, we have a pretty steady interest in this tie program. So, and Luke has, plenty of ag VAX funding to cover things in the tie. So we are in discussions about taking a little bit more of that 78,000 to cover us in the tie program. And that is because nearly all of the 15,000 that we've just received is going to go to a variance request and to approve some applications that have been on our wait list for some time. So that 15,450 is going to be obligated before we know it. Some of the good news is, though, that our third tie grant cycle will start in October of this year, and the septic program will be receiving a little over $96,000 in funding starting in October. And this is the third round of the grant, of the tie grant from DEQ. So we're hoping that these reprogrammed funds will be a little, some little bridge funding for this summer and early fall until we get that big chunk of new funding in October. So stay tuned for that. The hardware program, that grant will be ending at the end of this month. This grant's been going on since, I think, when I first started here. So it's like 2016, 2017. We were given about $185,000 in that program. We've nearly allocated almost all of it. We will be returning probably about $11,000 that we weren't able to spend. But overall, thinking back how far we've come with that grant, I'm pretty pleased that we were able to obligate as much as we did. DEQ has let us know that there is an upcoming RFA for approximately $75,000 in septic funding if we are interested in applying for it for the hardware program. It would be a 2 to 3 year grant. Ann and Luke and myself are in discussions right now on whether or not to apply for that. I think we're leaning towards applying for it. And the start date of that, to be determined. I don't know, Ann, if you recall when that grant would possibly start if we were awarded it.
I think October, but as we've seen recently,
Mhm.
those promises are sometimes shifted just due to, for whatever reasons, DEQ has a challenge getting some of the contracts out.
Right,
In
right.
theory, October.
Okay.
So with this, are you saying this would be a new septic funding for the hardware?
Yes. Yes.
My impression was, I mean, we managed to, with great effort, pick up some volume and applications at the very tail end of that, but we kind of struggled to get people to sign up for septic and the hardware. So, I mean, isn't there a good chance that we may also struggle again this time?
Lonnie, I'll answer that. And I know that Lisa and Chris and I have, Lisa and Luke and I've spoken, and I think we wholeheartedly agree with you. I think the challenge is we don't get penalized if we take it and then don't spend it. But I just feel like it's Murphy's Law that if we say, no, we don't want it, sure enough, someone who needs a $26,000, alternative system is going to show up at our door. And I would be heartbroken if we weren't able to help them because we turned the money back. So my inclination is just say yes. And, at the end of the day, if halfway, midway, any point, we can always say, hey, we want to relinquish this money to someone else. But they do try to keep the money in the watershed anyway, they do want to try to spend the money in these areas that have TMDLs, I guess. So I don't know. I don't think they would have offered it to us if they had other districts that were really feeling strongly about wanting that money. So my inclination would be,
And
go ahead. Yeah.
just as a general comment, I mean, everywhere I've ever worked in an engineering office, the general attitude was, if work comes to the door, try to take it and then figure out how to get it done. So I agree with you. If there's money out there and we think there's any possibility that we can get it done, I'd say do it.
Well, I mean, I guess
I think the issue is there's no harm, Lonnie, in having it. I don't know that we need to do massive amounts of outreach, but at least we'd have it in our back pocket.
I mean, I'm just saying, how much time does it take to administer the grant? I know at other organizations I've been in,
Oh,
the grant administration itself can.
well, if we're
take a
not
lot of
doing,
hours.
if it's not real active, then, Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, we're doing agriculture already, is that correct?
For the hardware,
Yeah.
the hardware was part of the ag portion of the hardware was part of the initial grant. I don't think, from what I understand, the upcoming RFA does not include ag. I have not heard any conversation about ag with this new RFA, but I could be wrong about that.
Lonnie, and that's a good point. I'll double check with Luke. If the grant stays active because we're going to be doing some agriculture, they often then too will allow us to shift whenever, like say Lisa wants, can shift 10,000 or 20 for ag, they allow that. If doing all the grant reporting and the only reason we're doing that is to keep it alive, then Lonnie, you're making a good point. Let me double check with Luke on the ag piece. And if we're already keeping the ag open, maybe we're not, but if we are, then it doesn't take any time at all to report 0 on septic. But if we're having to do a whole lot of reporting, not a lot of it for no activity, then yes, you're making a good point, Lonnie.
Thanks.
I'll double check with Luke on the ag piece.
Well, and if we could quantify too, I mean, like how much, have staff I assume staff has some numbers on how much time they're spending doing those grant reports, and if it's
Well,
trivial, but
yeah, it would be trivial if we're already doing the ag because you do them together at the same time. It's an extra couple of, it's boxes that you fill in and they would be zero. If we're already doing it, it would be zero for septic. But if we're not doing it at all, yeah, that's a little more time. I don't know if they require you to submit much of a report if you have no activity, but I can double check also with Sarah on that. That could be trivial. I do know that the WQIF was dormant for some months, I think, because we were waiting for some more money. And the person who is the grant manager on that contract just said, just wait until you get something and then do like a big report all at the end. Don't just send me a report that says zero. But it depends on the grant manager.
it's a shame that we couldn't get, I mean, I'm preaching to the
Yeah.
choir here, I know, but it's a shame that we couldn't get a grant for the practices that we know the hardware needed that weren't funded. I mean, I think what really needed to happen were things like tree planting. And that's, my understanding was that was never funded.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, I'll follow up with Luke and Lisa and find out whether or not we're actually going to be doing any ag. I somehow not sure that that's 100% in my head whether we are. And then and then I'll also follow up with Sarah and ask her what level of reporting do we have to do if we have no activity.
Great.
Okay. And then so Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, are we asking, well, Lonnie, then we would come back to you, I assume, for delegated authority approval, and then it would go to the board for recommendation. But you know, I don't even know the timing of it, so I don't know that it's that urgent. And if it is, it's okay with you if we contact you, if they all of a sudden call us and say, no, we need you to do it in 30 days.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would like some reasonable,
Time.
well, I'd like some reasonable, I mean, if we can postpone to the next Water Resources Committee and have a timely meeting next month and it fits the schedule, that's ideal.
Great.
If not, it would be nice to have some numbers to make by which to make the decision. Like, this is how much we anticipate this is going to cost us in grant administration, versus like, this is,
Okay.
I'd like to have some information, and then it'd be maybe nice for my fellow committee members to say, like, how much are we willing to spend on grant administration for something for which we may get no applications.
Right. And again, I'll check and find out what the grant administration is if we have no activity. If it's no report and no activity, and all I have to do is send her an email, then we're talking very minuscule. If I have to fill out 20 separate spreadsheets to say zero, that's a different story.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds like a plan.
At least I'll follow up with you and Luke.
Okay, thank you. Marie, can you just scroll down to the gold mine, please? Actually, Marie, do you wanna take this and give us an update on the gold mine septic program?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
So a couple weeks ago, I sent out to the Water Resources Committee the draft version of the outreach postcard we're going to be doing targeted mailing for. And let me see if I can pull that up. I'm currently in talks with Dominion Market Research to hopefully send those out soon. I don't know if we'll be able to get them printed before the end of this week, but we are in the middle of talks right now. It's going to be sent to 190 addresses directly within the watershed that we know qualify because they are located in the watershed. And then we will hopefully get some calls in from that. Let me stop sharing so I can share my other screen. really quick.
Hey, are you guys hearing like rock and roll in the background from me?
Yeah, it sounds like a party.
Sorry.
No, I'm totally kidding. I'm totally kidding.
My contractors that are re-roofing my house right now are on the roof and the radio is blasting so loud. That is the noise coming down my chimney.
Oh my gosh.
I don't hear anything.
The rocket. No, I can't hear anything at all. I was just picking.
Okay.
Oh.
It's loud for me and it's literally coming through the chimney, not.
So at any time for me too, like I have people replacing half the windows in my house right now. So at any time you may hear horrible noises in my background as well.
Are we gonna have competing rock
We
and roll
are.
radio stations?
Like we're on like a home improvement show or something.
Yeah.
We are.
Yeah.
It's the thing you do in COVID. You know,
Yeah.
you spend so much time in your house. We're like, man, we need to do something with this
I know.
house.
Should we ask them to sync the radio station so at least we're hearing the same?
Okay, can everyone see my screen with the postcard?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so thank you for those who responded with edits and comments. I really think it helped improve the overall postcard. This is the first page, or sorry, the front side of the postcard explaining the program and how they would be eligible. We added a caption for the picture so they knew what they were looking at. We really wanted to highlight they had to apply before beginning any work. This would be
That
the
was a really
back
good
of
thing,
it.
by the way.
Yeah. This is the back of the postcard. This white space is for address. This area with the 2 bars is where Dominion Market Research will put their, what's it called? Nonprofit code for postage. We fixed the typo at the bottom here and the map here showing, which we have included on flyers, the boundary of the watershed so that they know that that's where the watershed is. So it looks amazing. I'm really happy with how it came out. And I'm really excited to get these mailed out really soon. And for the grant kickoff meeting on Wednesday, we will be having a meeting with Greg and David from Culpeper. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa.
Greg
David-
from Culpeper and Dave is with, he's the grants manager for this grant for the, the Upper York from DEQ.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yes.
We'll be meeting with them and just going over our, we're going to show them the postcard and show DEQ, our plan for the initial outreach for this. And this is a typical process that we do with DEQ. We have an initial kind of kickoff meeting, and then we have subsequent kind of check-in meetings throughout the grant cycle to make sure we're all on the same page and we're on the timeline that we all agreed to, and we're making some progress, or we're adjusting our strategy if we're not making progress, and how we're kind of addressing any issues that we're having. So looking forward to joining with Marie on that call. And thanks to Marie for knocking that postcard out. I think it looks awesome. And I think we're going to have a really good response from this watershed. Lucky for us, it's a pretty small watershed. So the calls that we do get in, I think will be manageable for us. I don't anticipate a big influx of overwhelming wave of calls, but I think we are going to get a good response. And in fact, and this kind of segues to our recent application, in our mailbox this morning was our very first application for a gold mine project. We were happy to be able to, Marie scrambled this morning to be able to get this into tracking for us. So Marie, do you want to go ahead and present this project for the committee's approval, please?
Sure. I had to switch screens again, so let me know that if you guys can see the consent agenda that I put up.
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, great. Thank you. So this is a pretty simple septic replacement. Mr. Harper put in an application. They had a septic service conduct an inspection and found that there's standing water in the lines, as well as water spilling out onto the ground at the end of the line. And he is directly working with Shenandoah Soil consulting to replace the system and get a new drain field in place there. So it would be $4,000 in cost share, and that would leave us with remaining funds of $62,375 remaining. So this is our first project in the gold mine watershed, which is exciting.
We are currently funded in the gold mine?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
David, you
Okay.
have missed this probably maybe a year and a half or 2 years ago. It's been a while. So you are, it is, it's not, it shouldn't be, it probably was not on your radar
So-
because it took a long time for us to get through the whole, waiting period. Culpeper is the lead agency. We are a sub of a grant that Culpeper received.
Okay, I mean, we were talking about this new funding. I thought that we're sending out the card for. Maybe that's not new funding. Maybe that's what we've been working on for a while and haven't gotten responses. Is that closer?
That was in the hardware.
No, the card, David, you're correct, is for the
Oh,
gold
oh, oh.
mine.
Gotcha.
This person happened to, I don't know if they actually knew that we have a very specific program within their watershed. Honestly, I think that Shenandoah Soil Consulting, I've worked with them quite a bit. I think they told them
Okay.
to contact us, and it just so happens they happen to be in the gold mine where we have brand new funding. So they really lucked out, honestly, because
Okay.
normally within Louisa County, we would not have any funding for them. So this was very
Okay.
convenient for them.
Right, and Culpeper may
Yeah,
have
I
already
thought-
started Culpeper may have already started their outreach too, so that might be why that consulting company knows.
Yeah, which we have
Okay.
started a little bit of
I-
outreach as well.
Yeah,
No,
that's
I
correct. Marie's
remembered
correct.
that the gold mine's a problem and that we were trying to get that. And then when I saw this card, I was thinking that was a new setup, but I'm with you now. I'm sorry about being slow there. Thanks.
No, that's okay. So I guess we need a motion for approval for this project, if you guys agree.
Sure. This is Lonnie. I'll move approval.
Okay, through my county. so
I'll
I'll
second.
second.
I'm sorry, who's seconding?
Well, let David second. I walked over.
Okay. All right, David second.
I'll second. Yes, David.
All right, I'll call the roll. All right, David Collins,
Aye.
Steve Lucas,
Aye.
Lonnie Murray.
Aye.
All right, motion carries.
All right, and
I have to step out.
okay.
Right.
And I think if Marie or Ann don't have anything else for the septic program, those are the only items I had. Thank you guys very much.
I just wanted to show my appreciation, Marie. Your email was fantastic and I was really impressed. And I know, Lisa, you probably helped some, but Marie, that just reaching out to the directors to get feedback, I think is just really helpful, because then they get to be, they have a chance to know what's happening, but also you get, when there's an extra set of eyes on something, especially when we've looked at something for so long, it's sometimes hard for us to see where some changes are needed. So Marie, you did a great job, and I just really appreciate you reaching out to everybody. And thanks, of course, to the directors for responding.
Thank you. Lisa was a big help.
So I think if that's it for septic, we'll move into the next portion here. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, I got it. So,
Can you see the agenda?
yeah. agenda's up.
All right, great. All right, so just want to provide some updates for our conservation assistance programs, all three of them, VCAP, ACAP, and CCAP. It's continued to be a a busy year. Still, actually, just got back from a site visit right before meeting here. Let me just pull up these updates for project funding for Albemarle County. As you can see here, right now we have about there are 10 projects on the list. Our remaining balance for this year is $1,256.26. We won't be approving any more projects with that just because sometimes there's some project overrun. So we want to leave a little bit of a buffer. But it's exciting that in the last 2 years that we've been operating the Albemarle County Assistance Program, that we have obligated funds from both FY20 and FY21 with no carryover. So that's pretty exciting. And a lot of conservation landscaping, as you'll see. No permeable pavement projects in there. So some updates for CCAP. Here's kind of where we stand at just about the close of the year. We had obligated all of our funding for CCAP at the end of our second quarter. So we've kind of been operating a wait list. Right now we have about 7 CCAP project applications either on the wait list or kind of in the works. So still working with homeowners through that process until we get new funding after July 1st.
So there's I can't remember the name of the neighborhood. Is it like Little High Street or something? But there's a neighborhood I did a presentation for a while back, and there seemed to be a lot of interest in that neighborhood as well, like an HOA. I've heard a couple times of like, can my HOA apply for? Can we like team up and get a bunch of neighbors together and submit one joint application? Is that through the HOA? Is that a thing people can do?
Yeah. So actually, I am working on an application. I can't think of the HOA right now, but they're off of Stonehenge Avenue, kind of off of Ryer Road, kind of the northern part of town. They're actually going to be submitting a conservation landscaping project in their common area. And that's kind of typically what I tell HOAs is that, of course, each individual, depending on their, their lot sizes and what's feasible, either applying as a HOA for common property. But of course, individuals are welcome to apply as well.
Do we have anything in terms of scoring? Like if you had multiple neighbors apply at the same time?
No, so there is a category for HOAs for private residences, HOAs or community buildings, and then one for local government buildings as well. But so the thing where it gets tough if you have multiple applicants, like I understand, like maybe there's 3 neighbors who want to install conservation landscaping and create a kind of cohesive area. That kind of project works out. Where things might fall apart a little bit is if you're trying to kind of daisy chain projects together, where okay, one neighbor wants to have a vegetated stormwater conveyance system go into a bioretention, and it might be spanning both properties. Unfortunately, they can only be, it needs to be within the boundary of that parcel. So that's where it gets tricky. So I usually just tell folks on a case-by-case basis, feel free to have me out for a site visit, get as many neighbors as possible who want to be involved in the project, but making sure that everyone's on the same page up front about what's available, what's feasible, those types of things.
Thanks.
Chris, I missed. This is David.
Yeah.
I missed the first of that. I had to step out for a phone call.
Okay.
But if it's an HOA on some level, it seems like that's a better way of doing it than, as you mentioned, daisy chaining projects together. Just because then I would think you've got whoever the president is of the HOA, you've got the it's like an LLC or something. I mean, you've got them on the hook a little
Mhm.
bit better than, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
What's almost a shame is like, I don't know, I'm just being fanciful here a little bit, but I mean, it's almost a shame we couldn't like work with the foundation. And if you had three neighbors that wanted, or more, that wanted to install some sort of stormwater type feature that spanned those properties, to actually put, to dedicate an easement for that feature. And then it could go under that easement in terms of management.
Yeah, and that's something I've been looking at as, as I've tried to do more education for myself about easements and, the available partners in our area. So that's definitely kind of something I'm keeping in my back pocket, that if it's applicable to kind of steer people in that direction, or if there's already, a neighborhood site plan, that's something they can ask the county for. Sometimes there are these areas that have been previously dedicated as open space, or were meant to be, forested land on the property and then ultimately get taken down, but there wasn't any enforcement action. Sometimes they can use that as a tool to say, hey, originally when this was built, you said you were going to leave this as forest. What's changed? Can we make sure it goes back into a forested condition? So it's just kind of a case by case basis, but definitely have all the partners and tools at our disposal to kind of help those projects along. Yeah, so here's, like I said, here's kind of where we stand for this fiscal year. So that balance you see at the bottom here. So over the last several years that we've been operating the Charlottesville Conservation Assistance Program, we have had carryover from, kind of year to year. That is actually our total balance. So we've been able over the last, 2.5 years or so to kind of play a little bit of catch up and actually being able to allocate additional funding. So that's our total balance in that program right now. We are excited that, we had a conversation with Ann and myself had a conversation with the city of Charlottesville. So we're kind of working through and trying to get some funds. I believe I'm hoping they started the process, but releasing funds from a previous fiscal year that was dedicated to CCAP. So we should have even more funding for this upcoming year to dedicate to projects. And as I've seen, things have not slowed down for these conservation assistance programs. With everyone being at home, I think even with taking about 2 months off from site visits this year, I'm about the same level that I was last year in terms of number of site visits done. So it continues to stay busy, and as projects are in, neighbors are telling their neighbors. So it's kind of a good word of mouth that word is getting out. So I definitely anticipate we'll be able to continue to allocate the funds that are given to us. So with some news on the statewide front, I'll share that with you all. We did receive some additional funding from DEQ for the VCAP program. So about $250,000 in cost share will be added for allocation, in addition to the $1 million. So we're excited that continue to find some additional funding as the program moves forward. As I've mentioned maybe in previous emails to the committee, there will not be a new manual published for program year 2022, just because of all the things that have gone on this year. I think the committee felt like we're at a good point now where we're not having to update the manual necessarily every single year. Maybe we start looking at a biannual, or maybe even longer as the program kind of really finds its footing. So that's good news. Also, what that means is that many of the projects that have been added to the wait list for this year, once that July 1st deadline comes for new funding, those projects that have been pre-approved on the wait list will be funded kind of immediately, since there's no program updates or changes. So right now, I think we're sitting at about $170,000 in waitlisted projects. So kind of that money allocated from DEQ will kind of help clear that out. But I am making sure to add as many VCAP applications from our district as soon as possible. That way we're making sure we're taking advantage of the funding before it potentially drains out. So in lieu of a feedback form, kind of like we had been doing, I'm sure I know we did get some feedback from our committee members and board members to VCAP via the Google form that was done earlier in December. This year, we're going to try something a little different and actually have a VCAP public forum. So if you have any questions, comments, would like to have your say, this is definitely a great time to do that. It's going to be Tuesday, July 20th at 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. So this is going to be kind of the first crack at this. I think we just want to find a different way to really engage with districts, with board members, with contractors, with our other partner agencies, just to make sure we get as much input as possible and keeping this program kind of steered in the right direction. So please if you have the time, just please register for the public forum and just kind of see how that goes. Right now, there is a vacancy opening up on the VCAP steering committee. Henrikopoulos have been serving on the district board or on the VCAP board, VCAP steering committee. They're going to be stepping down just because of other obligations they have. So if you have any other neighboring districts or other friends that might be board members in other districts that are interested in VCAP, please encourage them to join the VCAP steering committee. If they have questions, please, you can also send them my way if they have questions about the steering committee. But otherwise, they should reach out to Kevin and Maura. Some other exciting news is that there is a new district guide to VCAP that was reviewed at the last VCAP training. Not sure if anybody was able to join that training, but Maura Christian, the assistant for Kevin, has done a tremendous job in kind of providing more available tools and context to the VCAP program that can really help new districts to get their feet under them and to start their own VCAP program. It's also a helpful review for myself just to kind of see what's in there and how I can improve our program here at the district. There's also a recording on their website. So if you go on the VCAP website, they have all different kinds of trainings, the new district guide, as well as other training videos that would be kind of beneficial if you would like to check those out. Let's see. So that's kind of the last dedicated items I had for VCAP, ACAP, and CCAP on the discussion. Does anybody have any questions about any updates that I've provided?
Nope, thanks.
Okay, great. All right, so moving to the last item here, just general Water Resources Committee items is one for the annual report. So we're in the process now of preparing that. Lisa just sent out some discussion points for us and deadlines. So as we're going through that, here's kind of an example. If you remember our annual report last year, here's just kind of some things that are included. If you have any thoughts about other items that can or should be included, please forward those on to me if they're specifically related to our conservation assistance programs, IDDE, our ENS, if there's some items that you'd like to make comment on. We do have, the format has been laid out pretty well. Lisa's done a tremendous job over the last few years getting it to where it is now, and it's a really great document to be able to hand out to people. And so I definitely rely on that to hand to new partners and that sort of thing. So here's kind of what we have. I'll probably just kind of make some tweaks and updates. I'll probably include some items remarking on COVID and how that's affected our work. But if committee members would like to have some input, some things you think we should be adding, please send those to me. So the first edits will be going to Lisa, or they need to be, well, everything needs to be complete to her by, is it the 27th, Lisa? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. So if you have something, I would get that to me by July 1st. If you have any updates, just because that way I still have enough lead time to, to add them in or do some research to pull numbers, that sort of thing.
Not for this year, but sometime I hope that we have, in some future date, it'd be nice to be able to quantify things like, carbon sequestration,
Mhm.
we'll have an idea of like what the impact of things like that are on these practices, or like have an amount for wildlife habitat separate, which would basically be the separated out the structural elements and just leaving behind conservation landscaping
Mhm.
and rain gardens and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lonnie, I think we're gonna get there with whenever there's tree planting. I think that would probably be the first one that will have a metric that we could use for actual carbon sequestration. I think that when it comes to just other conservation landscaping, I think it's going to be a challenge because each plant might have a different sequestration rate, but there could be one that this federal government does that would be for, maybe grasslands. I think certainly there, like anything I hate to say monoculture type stuff, but whenever there's a consistent type of plant, or maybe a suite of plants like a meadow, then maybe that number will come out first before some of the other ones. Now, wetlands, of course, will definitely have stuff. And Chris, I don't know if any of these would ever, if any of these things that are bioretention type thing we might be able to extrapolate something from wetlands, but.
I mean, just a thought. I mean, there's been a lot of attention given to the monarch butterfly and also the rusty patch bumblebee. And, I wonder, is there some way of like, having like a pollinator spotlight, like,
Yeah.
something that could say like, these practices are also benefiting pollinators. These are some important pollinators in our area that benefited from the VCAP program or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think in the annual report, Lisa, and if you could work, or Chris, you could, come up with some ideas, Amy even, because Amy's done some of the pollinator stuff in Scottsville, but if, there were some ways to have some graphics in here with that, monarch butterfly and some other things. Certainly I think if we don't have to put a number with it, Lonnie, we could absolutely list qualitative
co-benefit stuff.
Yeah, and that would be really a fun kind of graphic, Lisa, if you could do co-benefits like around the circle of, I'm not saying it has to be that exact graphic next year, but if you could have co-benefits like in some kind of graphic with different types of things like pollinators and other wildlife habitat, that might be. And even though, Bonnie, we don't know the exact number of carbon sequestration, we know it is sequestering carbon. So
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Something that would be qualitative,
Yeah. Okay.
And I think as we, especially as with our climate committee, but then also the county and the city, as they start to make their measurements, and I think we're going to maybe follow their lead, or it makes sense to do that. That way we're not trying to do a completely different reporting on numbers, and so we can kind of glean stuff from them. Would be my thought.
Well, and also, go ahead.
I wouldn't count on them to take too much leadership on that. I mean,
Okay.
This is my own bias. I mean, I think if we come out and we say, here are the things that we're doing that are beneficial, I think they're going to take their lead from us.
Okay.
I mean, that's just my impression.
No,
Well,
that's
and
good.
Chris and Lonnie, both the stream initiative effort and some of the things even with RSAP. I mean, we certainly know what the county is leaning towards as far as those co-benefits. Now this is the VCAP page, but I'm talking about the Albemarle page.
Mhm.
Because you've got one on Albemarle. There could be some things out of the Streamside initiative that they're working on. That would be, that we could list as co-benefits that we kind of know where they're already headed.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of what Kim just sent us the other day. Well, in addition to the easements, but there's probably some other stuff. Buffers, you know, we'll have to get creative, but it's a good idea, Lonnie and Lisa. It doesn't have to be limited to just the co-benefits. Don't have to be limited to just the residential urban programs. We could have these sprinkled, really kind of like a cool sprinkled. We've used that word more today, haven't we, Lisa?
We have, yes.
We could have them maybe it kind of woven, you know, almost like a weaving thing all the way through the entire annual report of a similar graphic that kind of pops up throughout Lauriston's programs, as well as, you know, even the septic programs on some of those pages, and certainly the agricultural page. There's lots of co-benefits that do go unrecognized, Lonnie. And maybe there's a way for us to weave it in through the whole annual report.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Because we often tend to just focus on where we have numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of other, you know, non-tangible things that we certainly, qualitative things we could certainly weave into here. And some fun graphics that would make it pop, I think.
Okay. Well, yeah, thanks for everybody for the input for that. Next, wanted to just bring up Water Resources Program Outreach Plan. The Ag team has started to put together their outreach plan for this upcoming year and how they're planning on doing some things. Oh, and another thing I completely forgot to mention, Audrey is going to be cross-training with myself to learn more about the VCAP program and to assist with you know, a little bit of program management, but also kind of updating our resources pages, the VCAP, you know, landing page for our district, that sort of thing. So that kind of leads a little bit into outreach plan for this upcoming year. Versus, you know, what the Ag team does versus maybe some of our programs is that, you know, I think they've put together some really great packages and handouts for farmers and landowners. I'm certainly going to try and piggyback a little bit on that where it's applicable. But I think for this group, the water resources programs, you know, septic, the CAP programs, those sort of things, maybe not doing, or at least for the CAP programs, not doing necessarily direct outreach, but more updating the resources for property owners, for those who do inquire about the programs. Kind of the reason that I want to make that shift is that, you know, as I take in inquiries, you know, we do have some resources as it stands, but it might not be quite as clear, and, you know, how there might be some do-it-yourself resources that would be better shared, or better explaining the application process, and just providing, you know, as much information, as much transparency as possible, and adding that to our website to be a host and kind of landing spot for that. And Audrey has done a really great job already in adding a number of resources. So if you go to the resource library, the residential section, so she's added you know, quite a bit of, you know, kind of do-it-yourself tools, you know, different resources from partner agencies like DOF, Blue Ridge Prism, adding them to here. So certainly just a great start. These are ones that we typically recommend to homeowners, but now that there's a place online that they can kind of reference to and go to.
So I've been in conversation with, I've been working with the County of Albemarle in developing the Native Plant Database 2.0. And there's been discussion about whether, you know, Albemarle, since it covers more than one county, whether Albemarle County is really the right place to host it. And particularly since they only support very specific technologies. So I don't know if that's something the district would be open to, but that that would be a resource that potentially could be hosted here is the native plant database. So someone could select what county they're in and, you know, what kind of practice they're interested in, you know, you know, various stormwater practices, and, you know, and it could show them results. I know, hopefully you guys have all seen the 1.0 native plant database.
Mhm.
But,
Yes.
the other thing that occurs to me too is it would be nice. I wonder if do we have anything like specifically for HOAs? It would be nice to have like a flyer or a handout or something like, how can your neighborhood be more, is your neighborhood interested in conservation or something about, you know, conservation flyer
Sure.
to
So
get
Lonnie, let me,
HOAs.
yeah, whenever you guys have any ideas on subjects, I think our first goal is gonna obviously, usually gonna fall to finding out if there's other resources that someone else, you know, extension or maybe some other HOAs, we can Google things. There's some beautiful publications that have been done that maybe aren't directed at HOAs specifically, but certainly an HOA could utilize. But you know, so if you've got like, that's something maybe Audrey could Google, is there anything for an HOA specifically? And that gets to the top of this section, which Chris, I was hoping to show you just so that the others recognize. You can click on those things and it sorts it automatically
That's pretty cool.
by date published.
Oh,
Yes.
and I see you actually have the Piedmont native plant database
Yeah.
in there.
So you see sort by date published, by title, image, if you just by clicking on any of those, or you can go to the top left box, Chris, that says topic, the little arrow, and drop down there. And if you just want things on rain barrels, you can click there. Then you could go to, you can see it shows 25 per page or more. Yeah, you could have HOA in there at some point, I suppose. Or you can just search by word over on the far right.
I'd probably use the word like neighborhood or,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
Well, yeah, so the idea is that we build this library, but we recognize if you just have a long running list without the searchable tools, it becomes overwhelming. So
I agree. I think
hopefully this will help with providing that a library that's actually, you know, it's like a card catalog and some modern card catalog. So you can look things up, not alphabetized, but I guess the titles are. And then the Audrey's done a great job of creating a little summary as well. So she's had to write all of those. And then of course, to create the thumbnail for each one so that there's a little bit of a visual of what you're looking at. Cause sometimes reading just a title doesn't really give you a sense of what you're, you know, what you're going to be clicking on. Sorry, Chris, I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew those special features.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the ag page has one as well.
Mhm.
Or will.
Yeah, so this is definitely, I mean, right now, this is kind of where the landing spot for VCAP and CCAP and ACAP is. And so this is definitely, there needs to be room for, there is a lot of room for improvement, and more in kind of better direction that I want to be able to add on here. It's just been a little bit tough to think about the website and administer the program and all those types of things. So I'm very excited to have Audrey kind of join me and have a fresh perspective on, you know, what things can look like and how they can be structured. So that's going to be the big goal for this year, is to kind of revamp this a little bit, and be more user friendly. And I think that'll kind of actually make the process and an application go a lot smoother, is it by providing them with as many tools as possible. They're able to do a lot of the, you know, the work up front to see if, you know, is their site even, you know, a good spot for a conservation assistance program project, or should they do something themselves, providing all the proper application materials, all those types of things. So that's just going to cut down on a lot of the back and forth.
Hey.
I'm hoping anyway, the back and forth that is needed with a homeowner at this point. So that's going to be an ongoing thing. So as you know, if members want to take a look at what we currently have, and have ideas of, if you have either looking at other districts or get ideas from somewhere else, please forward those on to me so I can kind of add that to the running tab here.
I think one of the big things is this is very much oriented on process of like our process and our various practices that we support, which are good, and people need to know that. But I suspect that most people coming to this site are thinking about what they want to do, like what they have certain goals or objectives for their yard, issues they have in their mind they already want to address, be it like stormwater or pollinator habitat, or whatever it is that they want to do, and maybe guiding it from their perspective, like what the people coming to the site want to achieve, and then we say, and here's how you achieve it. Like, here's the various practices that would apply to what you want to do. That's one of the things I really liked about that little resources page too, is it had those little ways of sorting and grouping. That was really nice. But something that sort of guides them down a pathway, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And the new VCAP district guide is set up in kind of in that way. So it's a nicer visual tool that I'm certainly planning on kind of borrowing a number of pieces from that. And I've kind of been giving some thought to it, as well as like the approach on a homeowner or property owner about what they want to do, provide them those tools. And, oh, by the way, if you are interested, or if the best way in achieving that goal is a rain garden or a bioretention or something like that, then we might have funding available for you as well. So that's kind of the icing on the cake, is having some funding available. But if there are going to be doing some great conservation projects, let's make sure we can steer them in the right direction. So those are kind of the outreach, outreach goals that I'm going to be working on and send to you all. Here's kind of, for those on the Ag Committee, you've probably already seen this, but here's just kind of a very rough outline of the Ags outreach plan for FY22. So I'll kind of put together a similar one for for the CAP programs. I don't know if there's other ones that I should be thinking about to add into the outreach plan. I'm not sure if septic is going to be falling under kind of this draft plan, or someone want to comment on that, either Anne or Lisa.
So I just sent you a spreadsheet that the Ag Committee is using to capture their outreach, so that you can think about the goals. Like, is it for signups? Is it for yes, we've got the type of outreach, like, is it a social media post, board meeting, a special event? There could be others in the type of outreach, and then sort of what your goals are. Like, is it to get signups, or is it for, local, state, and federal, like, awareness, like our legislators or our localities? There could be other, goals for doing the outreach, like the MS4 permit, for instance, Chris, some of your outreach is specifically for MS4. And then kind of identifying, this sort of in the same tone, identifying who the audience is, what really is, and you could have multiple columns for that. I'm not saying that it has to be, primary and secondary, but typically when you do, if you're looking for a sign up, you are targeting a very specific audience. If you're looking for, I think sometimes Tom would like us to be a household name, and I wouldn't say that's a bad goal, but I think, if you're thinking about the audience, are we looking at, the city of Charlottesville, for instance, if that's your primary audience for, say, one of the newspapers that mostly the people in Albemarle and the city of Charlottesville read. If you are using a outreach, for something in Nelson County, your primary audience may shift depending on what type of, what method you're using. So just something to consider. Then there's like organizations, obviously contact names, that type of stuff. That's just as sort of a tool. They're still kind of creating this. But it may be something that you all want to do as well, so that you really kind of define, sort of starting at the 30,000 foot, like what are the goals for the outreach? You know, what type of outreach is it? And then really what the goals are. And then you can always include a column and just call it phase 1, phase 2, you know, however you want. But I think sort of trying to define why you're doing it, who the audience is, and what type of outreach first. But you can go back to your spreadsheet, and I bet you yours, I mean, your handout, all of that will fit in here.
Mhm. Okay.
You know, so like with the goal of phase 1 is to encourage signups, reach out to partner organizations to distribute FY22 program information. So you might have more than one goal in there, but if it's primarily for signups, I think you just got to think, are you trying to have, are there multiple goals? And there can be, there's certainly, there's no reason why it couldn't be.
Mhm.
And I like that you've got videos on the list, Lisa. We need to add that one to the Ag Committee outreach
Oh,
list.
this is the eggs. I just
Oh,
copied
that was
it.
the
Yeah,
Ags. Oh, that was
yeah.
one of their first, that must have been a
The
first draft.
First draft, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Maybe Lisa, I didn't see it, but we need to add video on your awesome spreadsheet. Lisa created that spreadsheet today, so
Yeah.
FYI.
I think one of the most powerful thing about the CAP programs is that, you know, I mean, obviously getting the signups, and I think we, you know, the signups are, you know, we've done a great job, generally speaking, with, you know, spending the money and getting people signed up for programs. Often, I think there's probably way more demand than there is money.
mhm.
Yes.
But one of the nice things, one of the big benefits is that for every project that we pay for, I think there's many more projects that people are doing voluntarily because they see one of the projects that was funded. And so you have other neighbors getting in and just being like, well, even if there's not money, I'm going to just do this on my own.
Mhm.
And that I think is a big, powerful thing of the CAP program. I don't know how to
Yeah.
quantify it and how to,
Well,
but definitely I think the information resource part of what we do with the CAP programs is huge. I think
well, Chris,
people,
if you, yeah, Chris, go to that
We
spreadsheet.
seem to have lost sound, or at least I have.
I can hear everybody pretty well. Lonnie, are you hearing me?
yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, I've got sound.
Sorry, David. So Chris, one thing you could do to address what Lonnie's saying is, you know, some of your goals in your case might be, you may not really want to have signups as a primary goal because,
No.
as Lonnie said, is already, we don't need any outreach at all because we just don't have enough funding. But that could be the do-it-yourself thing. And then that might, you know, one of the things maybe you could have a column in here is on the messaging, like what,
Mhm.
and as Audrey builds a database of more of the do-it-yourself, Lonnie, stuff, that then if you know what your primary goal is, and the primary audience, I think it then helps you decide, okay, is this in an event? Are we going to do it through a press release? Are we going to do it through a video? We've got the resource library on the website. You know, what would, you know, so I think it's a really good idea to use a tool like this, but start at the 30,000 foot. And do it yourself, Lonnie, is absolutely one of the big things Audrey's going to be working on. And I'm super excited because I think, as Chris said earlier, we recognize that if someone can, you know, Lisa probably knows this story to this. I think it's Will Houston. I think he wanted to maybe put in a rain garden, or somebody did, but they didn't necessarily need to go through our whole program. They just were like, give me a shopping list. Tell me what I need to go to Lowe's and I'll buy it and I'll build it myself. Just, you know, tell me how to do it and I'll do it. And so.
Yeah, you know, there's these social media campaigns where, you know, for various causes where people highlight like, this is what I've done for this
Mhm.
cause. And, you know, and I wonder, and I've often wondered about something like that for our area in terms of conservation. Like you could have, you know, some way of acknowledging people in the community that are doing great things on their own, but also an invitation for people to stand up and sort of count. Like, I did conservation landscaping, and and I got information from the district on how to do it, but they didn't necessarily get funded. I don't know. I'm just sort of thinking out loud, but there are definitely.
That's why you're on the PR committee and the Water Resources Committee. Well, yeah, no, I think those,
Pardon me.
Chris, if you could come up with a tool like
Hello?
this, you could circulate the tool. David, David, I can hear you.
Hello?
Yes. David?
Hello?
Yeah, we hear you.
He maybe doesn't hear us.
Chris or Ann, this is David. I don't know if y'all are hearing me or not. Either my sound is going.
Hey, Lisa, I think you and David are on the same wavelength today.
We have the same phone plan.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
are in the same neighborhood, sort of.
Yeah, I think he just got dropped. I saw him come off the participants list, I think. I'm looking. over
Okay.
there. So, yeah, he's probably got some bad service.
Yeah. Chris, if you could create a tool like this and kind of get it started and then circulate it,
Yeah.
maybe there's a way to get, people could fill it in or people can add to it. I know you and Lonnie are both supporters of Google Docs, so maybe that's where you guys, maybe yours lives in Google land.
Okay. There we go.
But yeah, no, Lonnie, I think those are great ideas. And I think the brainstorming piece, I think a tool like this will help us kind of brainstorm and then populate it. And obviously the list of partners and organizations for this work would be most likely a little bit different. But that doesn't mean that they can't be part of your audience at some point, Chris. Maybe you just keep this list and push this section down to the bottom.
Yeah.
Because there's no reason why you shouldn't send the same whatever to the Louisa Farm Bureau. They should know about it too, I guess.
Oh, by the way, partners is misspelled. It's you have
Oh, that was my fault.
partners.
That was my
But yeah, am I just imagining it? I kind of feel like there were some things in the ag world where there are people that did, fence cattle out of their streams, but didn't get funding. And there's like a verification type thing where people get credit under to make sure they're counted under the.
There's been a lot of talk about it, but I think you're thinking of CCI maybe, which is the kind of sort of a maintenance agreement for existing fences. But what you're talking about is actually getting things into the BMP, getting things into the Bay model is definitely on James Martin's priority list. Things that were not funded by DCR.
We did that, Ann.
By DCR.
And we did that back in the, been several months ago where they had that survey that Farm Bureau pushed, and a bunch of other pushed people, where they asked us to tell them how many cows we had that weren't fenced out of the streams. Now they have us in the database.
And how many people responded to that survey?
I don't know. I know I did because.
Okay.
Well, that's a good example.
Yeah.
I think that's what Lonnie's talking about, that kind of thing, giving people opportunity to blow their own horn.
Yeah, exactly.
There's
RCA might be willing to help partner with. That's the kind of logical partner I would think would be in your row number 5, Chris, would be Piedmont Environmental Council, RCA, the groups you work more closely with on a regular basis, but I wouldn't necessarily delete all these, maybe just move them to the bottom.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably start with a lot of the folks that are already on here and just so we can just certainly add to it as everyone has an opportunity.
Right, and there might be a way to sort. You guys are better at that, but sort and columnize, so you can, if you label it ag or something, then you can quickly flip it around.
Chris,
Yes.
David here. I apologize. I've got to leave. I'm already past due, so
Alrighty.
I'm going to just leave and we'll talk to y'all soon.
All right.
Well,
Thanks,
thank you.
David.
Thanks.
Well, that's kind of the last item I had. Just wanted to share some things that we're working on for the upcoming year, and some things I'll need your assistance on as we're, planning a program outreach plan. Of course, we have the strategic plan, but it's always good to have an annual plan of work and outreach plan for how we communicate what we do to the public. So this will be certainly something to help guide that process along. So yeah, that's the last item I had here for updates discussion on the agenda. Does anybody have any other items here? I know our close time here is supposed to be 3:30, so have about 10 minutes. If anybody has anything they'd like to bring up.
I
The
think
only-
just your meeting dates. Sorry, Lenny. Just want to make sure you guys are all on the same page about when you're meeting next.
Yes, I'm going to be sending out a calendar invite to everybody. It's going to be a standing meeting on this. What is today? Tuesday. Standing meeting on the Tuesday. So everyone will be getting an email with those dates. So that way they're on the calendar. So you look for that probably either later today or tomorrow morning.
And it will be the Tuesday. Now, remember, our board meetings are the last Wednesday of the month. So is it the second Tuesday of the month, or is it the third to last Tuesday or something?
I was looking at the second Tuesday, but
Okay, that's
I
fine.
guess,
So you
yeah.
can kind of have it in your head, like when
Yeah.
they ask you.
Yeah.
That's great. And I appreciate sending them out as calendar invites because yeah, it's helpful to me. Because
Yeah.
if it's not in my calendar, it doesn't exist.
I feel you.
Hey,
So-
Steve, I'd love to follow up with you on the results of that survey. Maybe Lonnie and I can see how they, if you hear, if you.
Yeah, we need to, it kind of went into a black hole. I never heard anything else about it, but I think we can look back and then find, somebody has to have that information somewhere.
Okay,
The Farm Bureau pushed it so hard, maybe we can get one of my Farm Bureau contacts to come up with an idea on that.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting, I think it's an interesting concept. The other thing I was just going to say is that the this Albemarle County stream water protection process is continuing to move on. The next meeting, I think staff is actually going to come forward with proposals of stream protection proposals. They're going to be announced. Unfortunately, I'm going to be out of town while they're doing this. I'm going to see if I can slip out of my vacation to slip on there and join in. But I would encourage anyone that see if I can get the date for that stream protection meeting number 6. So it is Tuesday, June 22nd, 3:30 to 5. You can always contact Kim Biasoli if you'd like to participate. But certainly would be nice to have district representation of people, in that process. And I've been at all the meetings so far, but as I said, I will be in Michigan. So I'll be excited to see what the county has come up with hear their first their ideas.
Yeah.
Which ones are going to, what policy ideas have finally emerged from this process. So,
easements is part of that. Go ahead. Somebody.
This is Lisa. I'm sorry to bring this up at the very last moment, but I've had a kind of a last minute thing from DEQ come in. If you guys can just engage with me for about 5 minutes. I had requested from DEQ permission to grant a variance for a previously approved septic replacement project within the Thai watershed. The project is just about finished construction, and the final invoices for the project came well over the estimated cost. So the estimated cost of a typical system with a pump is about $12,000. This project came in just under $18,000, and that's due to the several site conditions. The site's very small. There's a lot of rocks. There's a lot of engineering that had to have been done. So DEQ does allow us to ask for a variance to bring the applicant up to the actual percentage of cost share that they've been approved for. So in this person's case, they were approved for 75% of the cost share, and a variance would bring them up to us paying actually 75% of the total cost and not the cap, so to speak, of what they're approved for. So I just got word from DEQ this morning that that request for a variance, so we would be asking for an additional $4,448.78 on top of the cost share that they've already been approved for. So total cost share would be a little over 13,000. DEQ has approved that request. So I think it would be an action item, if I'm correct, and you might know, I think it'll be an action item on the board agenda. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up about that will be on there. And I apologize for it being a last minute topic for this meeting.
Well, yeah, so I guess the question is, it would be an action item at the board agenda, but then typically those, Lonnie, you would report out.
Yeah,
It went through Water Resources Committee first. So I don't know whether or not you have enough information, or Lisa, whether you could.
If Lonnie, I can summarize that, or I can send it out to everybody with what I sent to DEQ, so you know the whole story.
Well, it would either then be delegated authority.
yeah, it would be delegated authority because most
Yeah,
of
yeah.
our committee members have left the
Right.
room
Yeah.
at this
Oh,
point.
I'm not sure we have a quorum anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you don't need a quorum for committees, but okay, because remember, you're just making a recommendation by the
Right, right.
But yeah, Lisa, so just if you could send that, Lonnie would do delegated authority, and
Okay.
then it would be probably, I guess then it's actually an action item, but maybe not a ratification. It's a little bit odd. So
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. Well, we might have to ask Amy what she prefers structurally.
Okay, but I should get Lonnie to do delegated authority as the first step.
You might as well, yes.
Yeah,
because
that's
they're-
a quick and easy way to do it, because they're almost, the
if I-
board can be a little late on getting that going. So.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
definitely things like transfer agreements, variances, things that are unusual do need to rise to the top of the agenda in the action item section.
Okay. All right, Lonnie, I will send you that by the end of the day today, so you have that information. And if you could just grant your delegated authority, we will get that taken care of. Thank you.
Yep. Sounds
And
like a
Lisa
plan.
can CC Amy in this so that Amy knows we've got this unusual one coming.
Okay.
Hey, Chris.
Yes.
So just real quick, you mentioned Audrey, and Audrey, I wanted to thank you. Also just wanted to mention that Marie will be working on the foundation and easements, and she already has and has done an amazing job.
Yes.
Audrey's going to be working with, I think you said this, but Lake Anna, as well as the do-it-yourself stuff, as well as the VCAP, CCAP, ACAP pieces, right? And I know I'm forgetting something because there was a whole long list, Audrey. And then
You got it.
Audrey will have septic in the tie. Marie's gonna have septic in gold mine. Lisa will eventually drift far, far away from septic over time. But still will oversee and help Marie and Audrey along their way in case, they have any challenges. Then Marie takes minutes for the ag committee, and Chris, whenever you and Audrey work it out, unless you did today, Audrey will be the official minute taker for the Water Resources Committee. I'm not sure if Lisa, you were doing it today, Chris or Audrey, but I assume one of you was doing minutes.
Yeah, I've just been doing minutes.
So Chris, that will shift to Audrey, and you'll just need to set up some time to kind of go over the process with her.
Okay.
Making sure that those minutes get into the board packet. Marie's probably could also help you, Audrey, because she does it currently for the ag team. So she sort of knows how the thing rolls out. But anyway, you guys, there'll be some changes. And I just want to tell you all how fortunate I feel to have both Marie and Audrey able to step into these roles, because it's much needed. If you all remember in the past, we had two people designated to the urban and conservation easement programs. And Chris has been kind of trying to hold down the fort on his own for the last year and 2 years. And Chris will be taking over UVA. Did you mention that?
No, I didn't know if that was what's official on that, so I didn't want to
Yeah.
say anything.
Yeah, we'll be shifting you. I haven't, well, the MOU hasn't been signed, but I mean, I'm pretty much on a verbal agreement now. Chris, UVA will be shifting to Chris. It will be a transition. As you all know, Mary has been doing that for a while. Mary will be going back to agriculture more regularly, but will be available for Chris as that transition happens as well. And Chris, I believe, will be hopefully taking the stormwater test, I think in the summer or the fall, because you're provisionally certified now through March, I believe, right?
Correct.
So if you all remember, Chris is as provisionally certified, you can approve plans. There'll be a bit of a transition. And we've asked UVA to limit the scope so that they can't just provide 20 projects in Chris's lap while he's got 20 projects from Louisa. So there has to be some kind of a balance. What other changes? What did I miss, Chris? So you're doing UVA, and then some of your duties, you'll be getting some assistance from Marie and Audrey. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. I swear I feel like I missed something because I know there's a lot of little moving parts. Oh, Marie will be doing pipe inspections for Albemarle and Charlottesville. That's another exciting thing that she'll be taking on. And I think that's kind of interesting. You get to go out in the field and it's working with GIS now, right, Chris? They have a cool program.
Yes. Yeah. It makes it much easier than all the clipboard and paper forms that were kind of hard to do when you're standing in the middle of the stream.
Yeah. Good. And is that with an iPad is that your iPad?
I just use my phone.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Well, that's cool.
That's pretty cool.
All right. So Maria you'll be training Marie on that if you haven't already.
Yep. Yeah, that'll be upcoming.
So one of the goals, if you all recall from our strategic plan, has always been to do cross-training, and figured this was a good opportunity. Marie and Audrey will both still be working at least 50% on ag, so they will not be 100% non-ag, but they will be cross-training and learning lots of new programs, and then provided Chris some much needed assistance. Audrey and Marie will also be helping some with some of the work that Amy does, because it's gotten massive with the amount of requirements that we have to keep up with. And I just wanted to, again, say how grateful I am that they're on our team.
Great. Thanks, Ann.
Great.
All right. Well, I think that's
We'll provide a new cheat sheet at some point.
Yeah.
Hope that everybody knows who's on first.
All right. Well, I think we're at 3:32 right now, but I think that's good. We'll follow up with I'll send out some additional stuff to the committee. If you have anything that you'd like to send me that we've discussed, please do so. But otherwise, look forward to talking to you all again soon. Do we need to have a roll call to end, or can Lonnie
No.
just?
They
Yeah.
decided that's not necessary. We can just say goodbye.
Okay. All righty. Well, thanks all. I appreciate it, and talk to you again soon.